Namaste. As we know, bhakti and love are the core of this yoga, Sri Aurobindo's yoga, which unfortunately many times is turned into a philosophy as if Sri Aurobindo is a thinker and it's all about knowledge, silencing the mind. That's what many people believe it to be. But if we look at the drift of Sri Aurobindo's writings throughout, and of course the mother, who is the one to whom the charge has been given to take this yoga, we see the core is self-surrender. As he says, self-surrender makes the path shorter. Trust makes the path easier. Trust in the divine. So core of this yoga, self-giving. Self-giving is true prayer. He says self-giving is what makes it smoother and shorter as much as possible. So if we see the core of this yoga is bhakti and love, but this bhakti and love is far, far ahead of whatever we have read about bhakti and love. And I am saying this with full responsibility. I have read the ancient scriptures in India, including Narad's Bhakti Sutra, Sandil's Bhakti Sutra, which are the two authoritative scriptures, and even Western, if you read some of those, Saint Augustine and other saints who, Christian medieval mystics, who had a very psychic bhakti for the divine, whichever way they conceived him. Maulana Room, whose poems on love and bhakti are superb. But this is something unprecedented. One doesn't find anywhere. So actually, in future, we'll appreciate probably that there is a book, if one wants to know, one book which gives all the aspects and dimensions, every possible angle, true bhakti and love for the divine, then it is the mother's prayers and meditations. It far surpasses anything that one can imagine, whether it is Sufi mysticism or, as I said, Christian mysticism or Indian mysticism, bhakti till now. And one such prayer that we are going to read today. So each prayer reveals some aspect of what is love for the divine. And we'll see as we go through. May 24th, 1914. And there are some very interesting sutras here and there which he speaks of in the previous prayers, which we are skipping. And I'll come straight to this. But one of the prayers, one sentence which I want to read. This is the prayer of May 16th, 1914, and I'm just going to read one sentence. Two sentences. One is, she hears a voice. Mother is experiencing that she cannot have a regularity of routine. There are people who are coming to meet her, and all the time she is busy with many things. So there is no particular routine that she can, she is interrupted by people who come for various works. And she says, she hears the voice, it is not by the supreme concentration that thou wilt realize oneness, it is by the diffusion in all. She gives herself to the entire creation, the divine in the creation. And the second one she hears is, do not revel in the ecstatic contemplation of this union. Fulfill the mission I have confided to thee on the earth. So there are two, we can say, levels of bhakti. One is when we are trying to realize the union with the divine by finding the psychic being. But once we have found the psychic being, then it is the work, the diffusion upon earth towards which we should be focused. The mother reveals this to one of her disciples who goes to the West. We'll talk about her maybe in one of the Hindi glimpses. Judith Tyberg, who was named Jyoti Priya. So she said that, some people, because I have gone there. She had gone because Sri Aurobindo wanted her to go. Sri Aurobindo asked Kapali Shastri Ji that teach her all that she wants to know. She is going to do her work in America. She wanted to learn Sanskrit, and Kapali Shastri Ji said, normally I keep a student for 15 years just to teach him, prepare him. Then only I teach, the Vedas. Sri Aurobindo said, doesn't matter, you teach him whatever you can. So within a short period of time, he taught her Sanskrit, the Vedas, the Upanishads, and then she went and formed the East-West Cultural Center. And very beautifully open to mother, totally against hypocrisy, almost like Kali in her own way, that kind of intensity of love, lots about her. But she asked, because people said, "Arey, this is not mother's work. Mother's work is you should remain isolated, concentrate, go within." So she wrote to mother. Mother said, "My child, you have already realized the soul. Those who have realized the soul, their work is this, to fulfill this mission upon earth. It is for others who have not yet realized. They have to go within and realize it. The exact letter is something to this effect, that those who have already realized that psychic being, they have to help others. And then she tells her, it is by helping others that you will progress on the path. And not only that, what she says is almost like she's saying, you are like a representative of mine in the world. She says, whenever you meet with a difficulty outside, look for it within you. So it's almost indicative that her being was being universalized, and that state she was in. And she asked Mother, Mother, I feel so beautiful states inside, like in, but my outer body, it aches and pains and all kinds of problems. The mother said, you were so much in a hurry to come down upon earth to participate in the work that you didn't care about the body's formation. So that kind of bhakti. So, there are those who are meant to undertake this. Of course, the first thing is to realize the divine. Now here again we see that bhav in this prayer, May 24th, 1914. Oh my sweet master, let me not be submerged by outer things. So what happens when somebody is realized the divine? Naturally these things normally do not hold one's interest. They have no interest, no savour for me. If I am busy with them, it is because it seems to me that such is thy will and the work must be accomplished integrally, down to the smallest details in action and in substance. So the whole attitude is different. First, one really cannot take interest in the most mundane outer things, material objects, etc., because one is so much focused inside, so much the joy of the ecstatic contemplation of the divine and the divine work, that to come out and do these things is to draw the consciousness outwards. But yet she says, because integrally the work must be realized in the most outer details, therefore I am engaged in it. Attitude is very different. But it is quite enough to turn our attention towards them and infuse thy forces into them as much as possible. So here again, this work is not just what is seen outwardly, but something she is infusing consciousness into the material field. We must not allow them to take precedence of the true realities in our consciousness. So while we should work there, and we should infuse consciousness in matter, in material objects, whatever be the work in handling with matter, whether it be food, whether it be objects, arranging things, sweeping the floor, that should be the attitude. But it should not take so much precedence that we are only thinking about that and preoccupied with that, as if roti, kapda or makan is the ultimate thing in our life. No, we should know the difference. O my sweet master, I aspire to thee, to the knowledge of what thou art, to identification with thee. She wants to know and become one with the divine in integral way. I ask for a love increasing, growing ever purer, ever vaster, ever more intense, and I find myself as if submerged in matter. Is this thy reply? He says, I want to more and more have a bhakti which is so much more purer, and there is no end to it, because always there is, as we grow, the consciousness expands. So we will constantly experience the imperfections which come from the outside world. That was the whole thing when Sri Aurobindo and the mother started the yoga in 1914 itself. Mother says that the question was whether we should go ahead and realize and then come back into the world, or we carry the world together. And Sri Aurobindo said, no, you have to carry the world together, because as we grow, we universalize and we start including the problems of others into us, start taking it, it's natural. And the mother says, yes, and life responded because people began to come. And slowly the work and the merger, they proceeded together, the individual and the collective sadhana. So she says that the more I want bhakti to grow more and more, love to grow more and more, purer, vaster and ever more intense, but I see that I am preoccupied with everything which is material or of outer life. But how she heals the antagonism. Normally we have the material life and spiritual life. In traditional bhakti, the bhakta is busy in the ecstatic contemplation of the Lord. And only those things he likes or admits or accepts which help him in that contemplation. The rest he discards as meaningless, as we speak about Meera, but Meera abandons everything for the sake of her joy of love for the divine. And we think that this is the height of bhakti. But there is a still greater height, a height beyond height, and this she is going to reveal to us. As thou hast thyself chosen to be submerged in matter, so as to awaken it little by little to consciousness, is this the result of a more perfect identification with thee? Not an escape from life, not a running away from matter. You see, the great Yagnvalk, one does not love for the sake of the person but for the sake of the self. Here, one does not love for the sake of the person but for the sake of the divine. Who would understand it that one can love the whole creation but not for any selfish interest but for the sake of the divine? Is this not thy answer to me? So vaster love. What is the answer that the divine gives her? If thou wouldst learn how to love truly, it is in this way that thou must love, in the darkness and the inconscience. Now, this is a love which we have never heard of. Normally, Bhakta tries to go away from darkness to light. Every yoga is about that. Asado ma sadgamya, tamaso ma jyotirgamya, mrityor ma amritam gamya. But here she has plunged herself into death and darkness, so that there too she can love, and by that love bring the divine consciousness into matter and into darkness. Isn't this what she does right up to the end of what we normally, ordinarily and ignorantly call as the physical existence? This is what she is doing. Even in the consciousness of the cells, she enters the cells, goes into the subconscious realm, into death, and there also she is awakening a spark of that divine love. So she understands this dimension. If thou wouldst learn how to love truly, it is in this way that thou must love, in the darkness and the inconscience. Then she says, O my Lord, my sweet Master, thou knowest that I belong to thee, and that always I will what thou dost will. So he says, yes, if you want me to go into the sewers, where there is dirt and the waste of the whole world, and want to clean, I will do that, even when my hands get dirty. This is the other aspect of love. Not to run out of life, and this is another contra escapism. Normally, even when we say that not escape from life, we live in life, but we lead a very sheltered, isolated life where we do some special practices to remain inside in a state of well-being, in a state of joy of union with the divine. The world is outside us, still very much on the periphery. But this is absolutely unprecedented, where she is plunging into the darkness, knowing it is darkness. Not like people live in darkness and enjoy it because they think it is light. She knows it is darkness, and yet for the sake of love, she is entering into the secret sewer drains of her nature, into the subconscious realms, into the inconscient even, because if that is the command, so be it. But only one thing she asks, that always I will what thou dost will. But let not a doubt of what is thy will be born in me. All that she asks is, this is your will, I will do it. If you want me to fight the battle, I'll do it. If you want me to plunge into darkness and inconscience and love there, I will do it. If you want me to be tied to somebody who is an embodiment of darkness and falsehood, I will do it. Because I will love thee in that person. I will love thee in this whole creation. What a wonderful anthem of love this is. Enlighten me in whatever way in the immutable peace of the heart. How different it is from the traditional idea of love. Little bit of bhaj govindam, bhaj govindam, bhaj govindam mood mate. Punarapi janamam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare shanam. This is hardly bhakti. True bhakti is, yes, 1,000 times I will come back to earth till your work is done. This is what is there in the Bhagavad, that I want to come back 1,000 times, 10,000 times till the end of the ages for thy work upon earth. Let me be submerged in darkness if it is necessary, but let me at least know that it is thou who willest it. All that she wants is that it should not be that because of some imperfection, some ignorant attachment, that I am with the darkness. Now we understand why, as we were reading her life, she married somebody and held on to that person because she wants to convert him. Many people just cut off that portion of mother's life. No, no, let's not speak about it. But that is the sign what kind of love she carried within her. It was not a human being she had married, it was an asura. She knew he's an asura. And still she wants to convert him. Now, if she can pursue an asura who is an embodiment or a vibhuti of the Lord of Falsehood, at least we ignorant, stupid human beings, we can make sure that how she would love us. So this is how one has to understand the events of the mother's life. That for that sake she descends into hell. So she says, let me be submerged in darkness, not just enter, submerged in darkness, if it is necessary, but let me at least know that it is thou who willest it. O Lord, in reply, I hear chant in my heart the hymn of the gladness of thy divine and permanent presence. Then one discovered the divine who is never veiled. See this wonderful prayer of Sri Aurobindo given to Champaklalji. In the night, as in the day, be always with me. In sleep as in waking, let me feel in me thy presence. Let it grow in me, truth, consciousness and bliss, constantly and at all times. So this constantly and at all times is only possible when in all states of being, from the most material to the most spiritual, from the densest darkness to the brightest light, we are in that state of constant love for the divine, not complaining, grudging, stifling, suffocating, saying, what have you done, O Lord, sent me here. None of those things. A true bhakta is always surrendered, and therefore he experiences the divine presence wherever he is. So we read this again. May 24th, 1914. O my sweet Master, let me not be submerged by outer things. They have no interest, no savour for me. If I am busy with them, it is because it seems to me that such is thy will and that the work must be accomplished integrally, down to the smallest details in action and in substance. But it is quite enough to turn our attention towards them and infuse thy forces into them as much as possible. We must not allow them to take precedence of the true realities in our consciousness. O my sweet Master, I aspire to thee, to the knowledge of what thou art, to identification with thee. I ask for a love increasing, growing ever pure, ever vaster, ever more intense, and I find myself as if submerged in matter. Is this thy reply? As thou hast thyself chosen to be submerged in matter, so as to awaken it little by little to consciousness? Is this the result of a more perfect identification with thee? Is this not thy answer to me? If thou wouldst learn how to love truly, it is in this way that thou must love in the darkness and the inconscience. At another place she says, she hears a voice which says that thou must learn how to die integrally. Even this idea of trying to understand is like a veil. Learn to die integrally, vanish completely. O my Lord, my sweet Master, thou knowest that I belong to thee, and that always I will what thou dost will. But let not a doubt of what is thy will be born in me. Enlighten me in whatever way, in the immutable peace of the heart. Let me be submerged in darkness, if it is necessary, but let me at least know that it is thou who willest it. O Lord, in reply, I hear chant in my heart the hymn of the gladness of thy divine and permanent presence. Namaste.